Kasey is otherwise known as Kasey Superstar. And we are seriously so blessed to have her come tonight. She has a passion to help support families like ours, and it definitely shows. And she's both a parent and a professional. And she often says that she didn't find special needs community, it found her. So that is for real. So thank you, Kasey, for coming tonight.
Thank you so much, you guys. I'm so happy to be here. And honestly, I'm like really proud of the work that Hope on the Hard Road is doing. And I have to tell you, so many people have been talking like, oh, there's a podcast, there's a podcast. And I hope you guys are getting more, not just followers, but people actually getting the information that helps them and supports their lives. Because we are part of a community that's, I don't want to say we're in the dark, but we're in the dark as parents. So just a little bit about me, just real quick. She's right. I have two children. One of them's 18, almost 19 years old, and he is on the autism spectrum, and he was diagnosed at 2. So although I went to college thinking I was going to be an undercover cop, I feel like, you know, I joke, someone else had another plan in my life, that special needs was going to be the community that I made my life with. And this is like air in my lungs. This is like my heart beating. It is part of my every single day life. I don't have all of the answers. I do tell everyone this, that I learn something new every single day. And I literally do commit almost my entire life to this. So if there's an answer, I probably, or I know somebody. So that's the great part. Let me share my screen and we can get started on self-determination because it is amazing. My question is, I should do this the right way. How many screens does one person have? Of course, I have a lot. Where is my presentation? All things self-determination. Okay. Can you guys see that? It's sharing, correct? Can I get like a thumbs up, response, participation, just a little?
Yep, we're on.
Okay, we're all good. So all things self-determination, you're going to want to get something to write with. I do speak a little quickly. I will try to slow it down, but you are going to want to write the information down. So like they said, I am Kasey Superstar, and I wasn't named from the movie. There is a funny haha movie called Superstar. This is my first superstar. This is my son. His name is Elijah. He is the joy of my life, along with, I have a second son also. An overview of self-determination. We're going to talk about all of self-determination tonight, the good, the bad, the ugly, and what you should be looking out for, and maybe the questions you should be asking in order to help you kind of navigate the system. What are the definitions of self-determination? The history of where it came from. We're going to go over a roadmap. And then how do you get started? Because you can have the roadmap, but like, how do you actually like cross the barrier, go through the door, make it? That's a whole nother concept, which a lot of families are like, we're doing the process, but it feels like we're never going to make it in. So a little history about self-determination. For those of you who are in the dark, self-determination is the longest piloted program ever. Jurassic Park 1 was in theaters when this started. So self-determination just went through a really, really long pilot in order to get like started. However, this next series happened. So from 1993 to 1996, they started looking at outcomes. And this is a big deal because this is what determines if our kids are going to be successful or not, and if this program is going to be successful or not. In 1997, grants were awarded to 19 states. And in 1998, 10 more states, I won't do a whole long history lesson, but 10 more states joined the self-determination program. Good old California doesn't join easy. We have to go to court. Legislation action decides that we are coming into self-determination. And we start with only 200 people in the original pilot of self-determination here in California. In 2002, DDS then issues another report. And in 2000, and by the way, that report decides right here, DDS decides that the outcomes in self-determination are better outcomes for the participants that are participating and for those that are choosing the services that will give them better outcomes. So that's what happened in 2002. In 2013, self-determination becomes law in California. And 2,500. So the first time we got 200 participants, and the second time California chose 2,500 participants to phase into the self-determination program. And self-determination in 2021 became open for all regional center clients. Here in San Diego County, we have at least 35,000 individuals who are in our regional center system. This is, you know, our general area. Most of you are probably from San Diego County. I mean, that is a lot of individuals that have the freedom to do this. Now, the real numbers are that only 10 people on average per month are entering self-determination. And I think about this. On the first, I have 3 people going in, me personally. So I don't know, it's not the easiest process. For me, it takes my clients about 3 to 4 months, and we will get into all the nitty-gritty of that. So from start to finish of where we are today versus where self-determination came from, I just want you guys to know that it's been a journey. We've had roadblocks. There have been challenges, but we've learned to work together and to collaborate on behalf of the participants. So we are going to talk traditional services. I call these version 1.0. These are our traditional services that we all experience. I just name them off: respite care, maybe a day program, maybe tailored day services, all of our kind of standard programs. How often do you guys feel like these traditional services aren't even meeting your needs? Like even what is available is, to some families, when I think about respite care, for example, and I'm gonna, at the end of this presentation, we're gonna discuss some of these aspects of real life instances and really dig in of what you can do in your own life to make this better. But the traditional services don't always meet the needs of the individual. I have plenty of clients that need, you know, more enhanced support. They might need more language support. And I mean, regional center is the payer of last resort. And if you have an adult that's, you know, looking for things like speech support for an augmentative communication device, regional center is not supporting that need. And to the individual who's nonverbal, that priority is high. That's their ability to communicate with the outside world. That means that the entity that's supposed to be meeting needs because of the traditional system, they're not. Let's see. And I probably went off on a tangent, but we all know the deal with regional center. Each client gets an IPP. On that IPP, you are assigned services through goals. You end up with, I can't tell you how many IPPs I see with 4 goals on it. Usually it's a break-in care, that the child will have a break-in care and be taken care of while the parents take a break. You have a conference goal. And then usually there's like 2 other goals depending on the age of the individual. But do you ever feel like you need additional services? I can tell you, I personally felt like when my son was young, is Regional Center just making sure he's alive? Like, why do they come to my house every year? Nothing really happens. Like, I didn't feel supported in the way that I felt like my son needed, not what I wanted. I felt like it didn't meet his need, and that is a different concept. We will talk about that. I just felt like this. I felt like I was swimming upstream against once again, not only was I going against the school system, but I felt like I was going against the regional center system and only receiving, I think, like minimal respite care hours. And I was really struggling. I was struggling as a mom. I was struggling all the way. I don't know. I was just struggling to get to all of the services, and I didn't have any support. And I really did feel like I needed it. And I felt like when I asked or I said something, they just kind of always told me no without saying no. They would just brush me aside. So I decided I was going to learn, and I was going to learn the ins and outs in every aspect of this. And now I know. And the interesting thing is each family does get a yearly statement. You know, that statement that comes in the mail? It's a yearly statement. It might say, $5,000 worth of services, or $7,000, or $500 worth of services for that year. That is a yearly statement. We are going to talk about it because a lot of families have this confused with what's called a year's expenditure report. A year's expenditure report is different than your yearly statement that comes in your mailbox at home. And we all have seen the one that the one here recently had the wrong regional center, had San Andreas Regional Center printed on it. That is your yearly statement. So I just want to be clear so I can give you guys real concrete information so you can go, oh yeah, I remember that. We got that weird regional center yearly statement. But then talk about services, what I call services 2.0. These are all self-determination services and how this can actually change a life. I will describe and explain individual client experiences so that you guys can really have tangible information when this is at the end. But the self-determination definition, this is so great because this is the part. Okay, so I'm going to give you 2 slides and I'm going to go back between the 2 of them kind of a couple of times, because number 1, the principles of self-determination. This is the foundation of what self-determination is all about. It's about the freedom of choice, the authority to make decisions, support in the way the person will thrive, will have a brighter tomorrow, responsibility over taxpayer funds, and confirmation. You have to make sure that you're doing the right thing by your loved one, that your loved one's making actual good choices for themselves. And that's what I sometimes comment. However, parents, you can do this without me. Legally and honestly, you do not need somebody to do this for you. You don't need an independent facilitator, which is our next, but you do need to be trained in these principles of self-determination You get a little certificate and you can do it for free. I did not do it for free. I paid big money to be trained by the best. And I went to school and I did this for a really long time. And I just, I say I took a bath in self-determination. It was just all day, every day, hours on end, hours on end. But you have to be trained in these principles: freedom, authority, support, responsibility, and confirmation. So you can do it yourself. I see a lot of facilitators not teaching families about this concept. And this is one of the areas that kind of, I don't know, it doesn't quite frustrate me, but it's something that's left out. If you are a parent and you've been advocating for your child, you can continue doing that. And it doesn't have to stop now. You don't have to have an independent facilitator. But if you are going to independent facilitator shop, I want to teach you how to do it correctly. Next slide. A lot of people, I'll just use me as an example. They're like, you're the superstar, you're Kasey Superstar. And I say to my families and the people who are kind of interviewing or looking for an independent facilitator, I kind of help walk them through this journey of, what are you looking for in a facilitator? Why am I the qualified one to do this for your child? And sometimes it's teaching parents, ask these questions. Like, for starters, what is your connection to this community? I happen to have a consulting company and I've been in this field for 16 years, but I've also been the director of Autism Society San Diego for 11 years. I've hosted support group meetings and I've been just intertwined within the community. And that's how I know services, because I worked with 3 master students to create resource guides. So I learned the resources, but I also along the way learned that all services are not created equal. And to the parents who are out there, you actually have the ability to pick the best, find what's best for your child or your loved one or the person you're caring for. And will your facilitator fight for your loved one? And I don't mean, it doesn't have to be a brawl. It does not have to be a knockdown drag out. But if I'm going to go to war, I am not going to lose. And I prepare myself with the law. I prepare myself with proper assessments, like assessments of need. And so that is the process of how you would pick a facilitator. You ask them, like, what's their background? What have they done before? What led them to be a facilitator? You know, what do they like about being a facilitator? Because I can tell you plenty of things I don't like about it. And there's things about it that are frustrating or, you know, difficult to navigate. And then there's the other aspect, knowing what services are available to the community. I love that part. I love helping families hire staff, picking good staff that's trained, that actually knows how to do what I call speak our language. Like, they understand, like we all understood. They were 15 minutes late or 10 minutes late. They had a family emergency. I sat there doing work. I was busy. I was like, they'll let me in when they're ready. And I was so thankful that we were all here when the time was right. So next we're going to talk about person-centered planning. This is step 2. And by the way, I owe someone a person-centered plan, which is what's important. This concept of what's important. They talk about this all of the time. They call it the 2 and the 4, right? What's important for the individual. This is what everyone focuses on. Schools, doctors' offices, everyone concentrates on their health and their safety. To me, it is more than that. I mean, I can remember even being a young person and I felt like this is all my parents cared about. But I always kind of wondered with my parents, do they care what's important to me? And this is the concept that I feel like I kind of open up an aspect that we get to learn more about the individual, what's important to them, like what are their hopes and dreams. And sometimes this is really hard for the families because I ask them like personal questions, some of them, and the parents will do the answering. And I tell them nicely, like, oh no, I'm asking Johnny. And they're like, oh, I'm so sorry. I've been doing this like their whole life. I said, yeah, just, can you let them, sometimes I'll ask, can you just let them dress themselves? No matter what they choose, just, it's fine. It's not going to hurt me. Like, if they want to wear their underwear and, a turtleneck sweater, whatever, I don't care. I just want like them to feel like I picked this and this is what I'm presenting it. Maybe they want to see a race in person. Maybe this isn't an academic thing. Maybe they want something that's outside the realm of maybe like what mom and dad choose for them. Maybe they want to become an artist, get a trophy. This one's a hot ticket item. And many individuals that I work with want a companion. And if any of you choose to talk to me about this later, I would love to have a conversation about the dating piece, because I did multiple focus groups on this when I was getting my my life coach. I'm also a life coach. So when I was getting my license, that's what I chose to do my facilitating groups on. I did it on dating and special needs. It was very interesting outcome and hundreds of people got interviewed. And I think parents need to hear more of what comes from the individuals who are impacted. This is both verbal and nonverbal individuals that gave lots and lots of feedback on this concept. Lots of people talked about this too, to have their own money. In some schooling programs, they do a lot of budgeting and planning, but if you ask the individual, like, do they feel, the participants are like, we don't know money. We don't do money. It's just there. Like, they don't know. They don't really feel it in their heart. Like, yes, I earned this. How much money they will need. They don't have, some people have the ability to learn these concepts and other people don't have the ability to learn these concepts. Goals and aspirations. So it's interesting because I have a client that you would think like he doesn't have goals or aspirations, like he doesn't have the ability to kind of think in that manner, something that comes with a lot of time. And he recently told me dirt biking. And I'm like, where did that come from? Like left field. Yachts and dirt biking are what he said lately. These are the things that he learned about yachts, large boats, fancy boats, and he wants to go on a yacht. And I'm like, can you take me with you? So goals and aspirations, these are all the types of things that go into a person-centered plan. They might want to take karate, join a team, find a job. Now, did you notice that almost all of those things that I just kind of ran through quickly, none of those are really like therapeutic, like we know. We think ABA and speech services and OT and, all of that. A lot of times, the individuals that I work with, and I have a range from 11 years old to 60 years old, they want to get out and do activities, or they want to isolate. They usually want either or. And oftentimes I don't sometimes I get learn to swim, but sometimes I just get, I want to go swimming. A person-centered plan is to find something, you guys, in particular. So we go through all of these things that they might want to do, behaviors they might have, the good, the bad, and the ugly of who they are. My job is to find unmet needs in an individual's life. Unmet needs and family circumstances drives the services in regional center. Again, unmet needs and specialized family circumstances drives the services in the traditional sense of the word, services in the regional center system. If you have these things, and we're going to talk about real life experiences after, you need to know what to do with them and how to present them to regional center. Oop, I'm going so fast. So we did a person-centered plan. Next, we do a budget with regional center. This process can be fun for some, and some families are sitting there like, I don't think this meets their needs. And we talk about it. So you know the standard services, respite care, home health, maybe personal assistance. We have day programs and tailored day programs. Mobility assistance for some. This one is a tough one right now, accessible transportation. Transportation's taken a real hit since COVID, but we're learning like how to navigate the system with less. It's painful if you have a school-aged child who's not in a day program. You guys are probably feeling it too. It's just the transportation industry as a whole. And it's been just challenging. Transportation pass, which would be like vouchers for our adults. Then we submit and negotiate. We go through this process through the budget of negotiating and submitting like our requests for what meets someone's need. This is kind of the fun part, and it's the part for me that as I learn more and more and more services, I can kind of hone in on each person as to what they might need in the traditional system. And then your budget gets certified. So we have number one mandatory part is the orientation. Then we have the person-centered plan. Then we have the budget. So that's 3 steps so far. Then we take that budget to an FMS agency. You guys get to select who your FMS is, financial management service. I call it the bank. That's like the easy way of saying FMS. It's just like a bank account. That bank account holds your spending plan. A spending plan is your budget, the final number, whatever number it is, your final number. We take that number and we develop our own spending plan together. And we submit this spending plan both to regional center and to your FMS agency, your bank. Now, this concept, a lot of people have it misunderstood. A lot of families will say, my spending plan has to get approved by regional center. They are not approving your services. They are approving or making sure that the service codes that I give will pass the DDS requirement test. So there's no service really. I have never been rejected a service in a spending plan, but I have had to change a service code before. And sometimes it's questionable which one it's gonna be. Do you want a personal trainer? Accessible transport. I have people who hire their own personal drivers. Service animals. Communication device training. These are not the traditional service of regional center. Communication device training is something a lot of my families are asking for. And this is something you can fund in self-determination. Personal assistant, which is different than respite care. Spending as planned. That's what the spending plan is all about. It's about us deciding together and working out the kinks of the money on how your loved one will have a brighter tomorrow, how they'll build skills, make progress. As we all know, progress is everything. Then you get case management, and they help hire employees. So I call it case management. It's just you keep your IF. You keep your IF after you enter self-determination. This is optional. You do not have to keep your IF after you enter self-determination, but you have to manage the case then. Whoever is selected, that person has to approve payroll every 2 weeks and help hire or fire employees. The families would have to do that. And, you know, I've seen it in every sense of the word. Now, the way I personally do it is I like to train families to be successful. So if you have a small budget, because case management comes out of the budget, the onboarding does not come out of the budget. But once you are in self-determination and you want like monthly management of your case, that money comes out of the budget. And so I try to say it really clearly so that you know and understand that the first portion, the portion leading up to getting into self-determination, that has an allotment of $2,500, $1,000 to person-centered planning, and the rest to the onboarding process, the budget, the spending plan, helping you with the FMS, those kinds of things. So families have to decide hiring employees. And then next comes a really important part. Each and every employee has to pass the DDS clearance for a life scan. It's critical. This is like the great part because it clears people's backgrounds and it makes sure that whoever's working with our loved ones, that they're safe, they're not a criminal, they don't have a past, maybe inappropriate sexual activity with a child or anything like that, so that our loved ones are protected. It is mandatory. Everyone has to do it. So I say it like that because everyone asks me every single day. And of course, thank you so much for coming. I do believe in this cause, and I do love this community so much. And self-determination can seem like a mountain to climb to get in, but to everyone, I tell them this: how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. To the families who receive IHSS, that was a mountain. You climbed it. Are you glad you climbed it? Do you feel like it's supporting your family in a good and effective way? And then there's me. That's it. There's my email, there's my phone number. And I just appreciate everyone coming, and I love Hope on the Hard Road.
Oh my goodness, Kasey, thank you so much. That was amazing. And I'm over here laughing at we love your humor. So
you knew it when I said it, and we love progress. Everyone's laughing at me. By the way, my whole family laughs at me. They're like, a grain of rice? That's what you use as an example? I'm like, I don't know what happened.
Hey,
Passed it everywhere.
I love it. And hopefully you guys all have a chance too, to make sure you listen to the podcast. So she goes really in depth on this topic, as well as now we've got Cal Abel on the latest podcast.